A horrible act disturbed the tranquility of the evening on the night of April 16, 2005, in Providence, Rhode Island. Families dined, friends gathered for beverages, and late-night revelers wandered the streets. They had no idea that malevolent forces were at work, ready to violently break the serenity as morning came. Esteban Carpio, a 26-year-old father of two small children, is at the center of the terrible incident. Carpio had a history of small offenses and violent outbursts, but people close to him saw more strange behavior in the weeks preceding the tragedy. He described feeling terrified, hearing voices, and believing he had been cursed by someone using voodoo to harm him. His family sought aid for his failing mental condition, but their attempts were useless. After bringing his fiancée downtown for a job interview on that dark April night, Esteban Carpio proceeded on a path that would lead to a heinous murder. Carpio was driving across the east side in a rented red minivan just after 9 p.m. when he noticed 84-year-old Malene Gatz standing alone in her driveway. He maneuvered his minivan to the curb, covering his face and grabbing a hunting knife, seeing an opportunity. Carpio drew in on Malene with malice, and when she realized she was in danger, she burst into tears as he viciously assaulted her. Despite the quick response of neighbors running to her help, Carpio withdrew in his minivan, leaving a scene of horror with Malene wounded and bleeding on the barren road. Despite the confusion, a careful witness managed to catch the van's license plate number as it drove away, forming a critical connection in the ensuing inquiry. The witness's prompt capture of the license plate proved a vital piece of evidence, providing law enforcement with a critical lead in their pursuit of the culprit. It demonstrated the community's fortitude and readiness to face the evil that had arrived on their calm night. In the face of violence, this modest act of bravery would become crucial in the search for justice. The events of that fatal night represented a frightening meeting of two lives, one of a predator motivated by malevolence, preying on the helpless, and another of a resilient community unwilling to allow evil to go unchecked. Carpio had no idea that the attentive eyes of a concerned observer would put in motion a chain of circumstances that would eventually lead to his horrible crimes being exposed and condemned. Carpio came home callously after the heinous attack, easily blending into the illusion of normalcy, as if the night's events were a dream of his mind. The wheels of justice were already in motion, unbeknownst to him. The police arrived at Carpio's house quickly, armed with key license plate information given by a watchful witness. Carpio was detained for interrogation and first supplied a bogus name in an attempt to conceal his identity. However, as evidence mounted against him, his masquerade began to unravel. A vital crossroads came during an unexpected hiatus in the interview process, in a surprising twist of fate. Carpio, inspired by a sudden rush of malevolence, overwhelmed Detective Allen as one of the detectives quickly left the room. Carpio took Allen's service handgun and fired 2 rounds into the detective's chest with frightening accuracy. Carpio, now equipped with a stolen firearm, jumped from a window, dropping 3 floors down into the stormy night. The next morning saw the terrible conclusion of Detective Allen's injuries as he died from bullet wounds inflicted by his own service pistol. This terrible turn of events prompted an urgent and widespread quest for Esteban Carpio, who is now not only a perpetrator of a violent crime, but also a cop killer on the run. Carpio, hurt and desperate, sought sanctuary in an attempt to flee the unrelenting pursuit of law enforcement authorities. In an attempt to further remove himself from capture, he contacted a friend and attempted to organize transportation out of state. However, the noose tightened quickly on Carpio as the SWAT team surrounded a home near the police station, the hideaway where Carpio took sanctuary, within an hour of the incident. Carpio and law enforcement engaged in a heated fight, with authorities using tasers and physical force to apprehend the desperate fugitive. Carpio's capture ended his brief but passionate struggle for freedom, which was distinguished by stress and resolve. Following this terrifying encounter, an inquiry into Carpio's behavior and the circumstances surrounding Detective Allen's murder began. The mystery took a new turn, shedding light on the intricacies of seeking justice, the tenacity of law enforcement, and the devastating repercussions of a crime that shook the town to its core. Carpio got a medical assessment at the hospital while in jail, indicating significant injuries from both his precipitous leap and the tremendous struggle he put up during his arrest. Some were concerned about possible police wrongdoing, prompting an FBI civil rights inquiry into the use of force during Carpio's arrest. The extensive investigation, however, finally established that Carpio's injuries were caused by the fall and the physical battle with police officers. The conclusions rejected any charges of impropriety, emphasizing the arrest's difficult circumstances. As the city of Providence grieved the death of Detective James Allen, Carpio was imprisoned without the option of bail, facing first-degree murder charges. The ensuing trial, which took place in the hallowed halls of Superior Court in June 2006, was a harsh monument to the seriousness of Carpio's alleged crimes. Prosecutors painted Carpio as a ruthless killer who murdered a police officer in cold blood in order to avoid responsibility for his previous violent attack on an innocent elderly woman. Witnesses recalled the horrific sequence of events that occurred on that dark April night, adding to the prosecution's convincing tale. While not denying Carpio's responsibility for fatally shooting Detective Allen, the defense took a different approach. They said Carpio was mad at the time and was unable to manage his disordered thoughts. This assertion became a focal point, injecting a psychological aspect into the courtroom drama. Family members and psychiatrists testified, giving insight into Carpio's serious mental condition and the difficulties he encountered in keeping control over his conduct. Prosecutors' psychiatrists, however, strenuously disputed these allegations, claiming that Carpio did not fit Rhode Island's severe legal definition of insanity. The courtroom became a battleground for expert opinions and opposing viewpoints on Carpio's mental state at the time of the offenses. As the court system dealt with the complexity of mental health, guilt, and the pursuit of justice, the emotional weight of the trial was obvious. The case was handed over to the jury for consideration after 2 emotionally charged weeks. The jury, engrossed in the complexities of the trial, deliberated for 310 days before reaching a decision. Their verdict echoed across the courtroom: guilty on all counts. Carpio dropped his head as he faced the weight of the guilty decision, while the Allen family took solace in knowing that justice had been served for their slain loved one. Moreover, emotions were running high at Carpio's sentencing. Despite Carpio's heartfelt apologies to the Allen family and the larger community, the court was unimpressed by emotions and instead noted Carpio's significant criminal past. The judge handed down the heaviest sentence, ordering Carpio to serve the remainder of his life in prison without the prospect of release. As the legal chapter concluded, the city of Providence dealt with the fallout from a heinous act. Detective James Allen, a distinguished detective who had served for over 25 years, was put to rest with full police honors. Meanwhile, the cold-blooded offender, Esteban Carpio, was sentenced to life in jail, serving as a reminder of the fragility of sanity and the irrevocable repercussions of horrible crimes. After weathering the storm of sorrow, Rhode Island went ahead, with Detective Allen eternally recognized as a hero and Carpio relegated to the shadows of his misdeeds. The trial concluded after 2 emotionally charged weeks when the case was turned over to the jury. After a 310-day deliberation period, the jury returned a definitive verdict: guilty on all charges. Esteban Carpio bent his head in the courtroom, feeling the weight of the guilty decision as the Allen family, who had waited for justice for so long, cried with relief. Emotions were apparent in Carpio's sentence. He addressed the bereaved family and community of Detective James Allen, expressing contrition and realizing the seriousness of his conduct. Despite the heartfelt appeal, the judge issued a tough and inflexible sentence, unmoved by emotion. The judge gave the highest sentence allowed: life in prison without the possibility of release, citing Carpio's significant criminal past. As the judicial process came to an end, the people of Providence gathered to say their final goodbyes to Detective James Allen, a cherished hero. Hundreds of people gathered on the streets to pay their respects to the slain cop, whose legacy will live on in the hearts of those who knew him. Meanwhile, Carpio, the cold-blooded perpetrator of the community's terror, found himself confined to a jail cell, doomed to a life of seclusion. Rhode Island was at a crossroads as it dealt with the enduring effects of this horrific tragedy. The community, traumatized by Carpio's acts, found peace in the justice given to Detective Allen. The city's destiny would be shaped by the community's desire to heal and rebuild, with the hope that Detective James Allen's legacy would live on as a symbol of perseverance and the victory of justice. Well, that's it for today. Make sure that you like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing videos. Thanks for watching the video. We'll see you at the next one.